Hi again, this is Jim Hodgson with the Fort Worth Aviation Museum. This is a bonus edition of Fun with Aviation, and wanted to come into the museum, and since we just talked about the YF-16 and how much significance that had to the area, thought we'd show you something that a lot of people find very interesting. And you'll see the little sign here and it says, "What is this?" And we've got a cylinder with a whole bunch of little, actually they're airsoft BBs in it. And we asked people what that all means. Well, back in 1938, the Air Conference, or the conference of all of the existing airlines, met here in Fort Worth, and Amon Carter, and we've mentioned his name before. Amon Carter chaired that meeting, and part of that meeting was the development of the airlines and what was taking place, but they also knew that there was trouble going on in Europe, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt had said that there was a possibility that we were going to have to get into a fight if there was one, and that we needed a much bigger Air Force, a 50,000 airplane Air Force. So after that, things started to change, and one of the things that took place is that there were a competition going on for places to build production facilities. Well, when the Air Force Army Air Corps came out and announced that, it was announced by a bunch of cities, and Carter had done a bunch of work. He had looked at Dallas. He had looked around areas of Fort Worth as to what might be a good place to build an aircraft facility. He picked Fort Worth because he knew that there were a lot of people here. There was a lot of natural resources here with natural gas and things like that, and there was places to be able to do things, namely the lake right here in Fort Worth. So when the list came out and we weren't on it, he became very upset, and he took some of his businessmen from here in Fort Worth, and they went to Washington, D.C., and while he sent everybody else to go see the Pentagon and the congressmen and senators, Carter went to 1600 Pennsylvania to talk to Roosevelt and voice his displeasure with there not being a facility to build aircraft here. Roosevelt told him, well, the decision had already been made, but he'd go back and talk to people, and a few days later, it was announced that there would be another Air Force plant built to build airplanes, and it was Air Force Plant number 4, and it was here in Fort Worth, and its original function was to build B-24s. Now, after that, it's built a lot of other things. It's been the home of Consolidated and General Dynamics and Lockheed now, but that kicked off aircraft production here in the local area. This is just a little bit of a display of some of the aircraft that have been built here in North Texas over the years. These are primarily here in Fort Worth, but there have been many others, and we'll show some of those too after we talk about this cylinder. So when we talk about it, and people want to know, well, what is this? Well, I'm sure you've all been to carnivals or shows where they want you to tell them how many jelly beans are in a jar. Well, in this jar, and I'm not going to let you count them because we don't have time for that, there's just about 70,000, and that's the number of aircraft through 2012, by the way, so we're up at probably another 1,000 or more airplanes since then. That's the total number of airplanes that have been built here in North Texas since 1941. Now, we've got a color code on these. These are airsoft BBs, by the way, and it's completely full. So it kind of gives you an idea that here's the key to it. The green ones were B-24s initially. The yellow ones were T6 Texans that were all built over in Grand Prairie. And you can just see all of the number of different airplanes and the total quantities and the colors that are significant in here. You can see in 1942 that we built a lot of airplanes here in the local area. And those were all Air Force and Army Air Corps airplanes. And we get up through the late into the 60s in the Vietnam War. What we have here are blue ones are the Navy, and the green ones are Bell Helicopter, and Hueys and Cobras, and OH-58 Kiowas. So of the 70,000 airplanes that have been built here, approximately half, or a little bit more than half, are actually Bell products. Now, we also like to tell people that the total direct impact of these airplanes that have been built here to the community is over $1 trillion. Now, that's a big number, and it's hard to figure out, but how big is 70,000 airplanes, and how big is $1 trillion? Well, if we spin around here just a little bit, and we go back to what we talked about the other day, first flight day. So if we go back to January 12th, 1911, and we say, how many is 70,000 airplanes? That's 2 airplanes a day, every day, for 109 years. Let that sink in. That's 2 airplanes a day, every day, for 109 years. And how much is $1 trillion? That's $22 million a day, every day, for 109 years. That's a lot of money, and that's just the direct impact of selling these airplanes. That doesn't have anything to do with the cost of building roads and schools and hospitals and churches and grocery stores and post offices and everything else. So the direct impact of aviation here has been huge. Today, in 2020, nearly 1/5 of all the jobs in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are aviation related, and that's one of the highest percentages of anywhere in the country. So we're going to walk over to this other case a little bit and give you a chance to see some of the Bell products that have been built here over the years, starting with the one here up on the top that people are most familiar with from shows like MASH, and that's the oops, looking at the wrong case. There we go, right there, the little bubble. Bell moved here in 1953 from New York, and Eamon Carter is the person who brought them here. And when they originally came to Fort Worth, they started to build their helicopters and pieces of their helicopters down in the stockyards. And then later on, they moved to Hurst, and at the little airfield up north of us here is where the Cobras went through final assembly. Now we're going to show another case here, which is the Vought case, LTV and Vought. And these are some of the airplanes and systems that were built here in Grand Prairie. Now, North American built airplanes here also. They built P-51s, they built some of the other B-24s and other airplanes over in Grand Prairie, but this is the stuff that Vought built here. So at any rate, this is just a little bonus footage. I'm going to go back to show you the BB model again. The other airplanes in these cases are airplanes that have flown here. And one of these days we will do a little bit more of a story about that. So if you ever come in and somebody asks, what is this? You know that it is a model representing every aircraft that's been built in North Texas, and how much that has had an impact on the area and the community, and what $1 trillion is, and what 70,000 airplanes are. So from the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, we hope you're all doing well. We hope you're staying safe, washing your hands, and doing what you need to do to stay safe, because we really look forward to the day that we can open the museum back up and we can have you all come out and visit. So for now, thank you.